everyone. Here I am from the 5th European Narrative Therapy and Community Work Conference in Antwerp, in Belgium. I've just come off having done a fair bit of travelling. I've been in 4 different countries, tried to get my head around all these different languages, and now arrived at a place where I was supposed to be for the whole time. So if you're there, have a wave. Oh look, it's like Shrimmer. Hey. So you can see, I'll just show you the people all gathering for lunch over here. I've just been at a workshop by an English clinical psychologist called Glenda Fredman, who's been talking about all the people that we bring with us into our work, that it's great to have as a resource with you and be aware of them and what they've contributed to your life and your values, and we've been sort of doing some mapping around that. I'm hoping to be able to talk to Glenda about that at some stage. I think I might just roam around and see if I can just get some hellos. Hello ladies.
Hello.
So this is Jo and Susie. This is my Social Work Wise Facebook group. Want to say hello?
Hello.
So would you like to just say a little bit to my friends in Australia about why you're here? What's brought you to this conference?
Well, we were just talking about that. Yeah. We were just thinking about how sometimes it can be a bit tricky to hold on to narrative principles in our work, and maybe there's lots of things that pull us away from that.
Yeah. In your work, in your work context.
Yeah. And this feels like an opportunity to really connect with those ideas.
Yeah, we called it a narrative retreat.
Narrative
so
retreat.
Seeing it as a little holiday.
It's a long way to go for a retreat. So you're from the UK?
Yeah, we're both from the UK.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. And where are your working contexts?
I'm in Worcestershire, in CAMS, which is Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services.
Yes, we have those at home. Yes.
There's also a bit of private practice.
Okay. Yeah. And you, Jo?
And I work in a children's hospital in Manchester.
Oh.
Yeah.
General paediatrics or
General paediatrics and cystic fibrosis as well.
Oh.
Yes.
So you do a bit of child protection work as well sometimes?
Yes. Yeah. I mean that domain's always around, isn't it?
Yeah. And how did you both come to narrative ideas?
How long have you got?
How long are these people here for?
Not long. I don't think my data's going to last that long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I went to we were just talking about this, weren't we?
Yeah.
Back in 1999 when I moved to Australia. No, in fact, a little bit before that, when I was training as a psychologist, I had a supervisor who introduced me to Michael White's stuff, got me working with his ideas. And then I moved to Australia for a couple of years and worked in Melbourne and went over to the Dolly Centre a few times and did some training courses with Michael White. So since then, I came back. And,
So it's coming back to the garden a little bit.
Go back to the garden. I like that.
Yeah.
And Susie teaches some of the professionals, don't you, at the Narrative Institute.
Oh, okay.
Which is how I met.
which is how we met.
Yeah.
Oh well, we've probably got some conversations to be had yet about teaching these ideas. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go and track down Sabine.
Oh, yeah, she is.
I feel honoured to be interviewed.
Wow.
Okay, hi everybody again. Now here we have Sabine, who's one of the conference organisers, and this is the first day.
It's really the first day.
Yes. So tell us a bit about what the hopes were. How long has the group been together, and what were your hopes for this particular conference?
The group is already, I think, 10 years together. And we organize each 2 years between Belgium and the Netherlands the narrative conference of the lowlands, we call ourselves, of Belgium and the Netherlands. And we have a lot of training centers over here in Belgium and the Netherlands who offer narrative courses. Mm-hmm. So there is a pretty large narrative community over here. Right. And we are already a few years involved in the European community. And he asked already a few times, will you please organize this one because there is a great eager or wish to get linked.
Yes.
Because we don't want to become islands of knowledge and islands of developing narrative practices and get separated from public social services, because we think it's important that people keep on being linked.
Yeah, it's kind of antithetical to the whole approach, isn't it? To be isolated and in competition with each other. It's all about collaboration and connecting and linking, and that's actually the theme of the conference, isn't it? Crossing borders, linking lives.
We hoped to cross many borders.
Mm-hmm. What kind of borders are you talking about?
Borders in therapy. That we don't divide. Oh, you have psychotherapy, you have family counselors, you have just social workers, and so on. But that we get linked and work together and find ways for our clients that create a community.
Yes.
That was one border that we wanted to cross.
Yes.
At the same time, that therapy or social work isn't limited in only talking about, but also doing together.
Yes.
And creating different ways and new ways of creating therapeutic wellness instead of doing therapy.
Yes. So moving away from that idea of doing therapy to people.
Yeah. And another border that we would like to cross was how can we link from that previous idea, how can we link literature, theater, film, movies to our ways of doing and get inspiration from other worlds than just
the therapy world.
The therapy world.
Yeah.
So that was also an important crossing border, and that in Europe you have so many tiny countries.
Yes.
That also that can become an island. We have a lot of immigrants for the moment, and the whole problem with asylum seekers from Africa. And
see, the problem is with Europe is you don't have islands to put your asylum seekers on. Like in Australia, we have all of those islands that we can just put people on for a long time and make them earn their, deserve to stay in our wonderful country.
Yeah, for sure. And until now, Europe hasn't decided to build a wall like they do in America between Mexico and so we wanted to make also a statement by this, that we don't want walls, that we want to invite people. So that's also a reason why the conference isn't European narrative conference, but European plus narrative conference. So that was another border that we wanted to cross.
That's why when I put my abstract in to present here, Sabine was very wonderful and encouraging in the way that she communicated with me. Like, please, this is a plus. Look at the plus.
Yeah. And I think that plus is important also for us in crossing borders in all kind of different ways, and also because tomorrow the real conference starts, and we made, I think, a really clear statement that we want our clients on stage.
Yes, great.
Not just to perform, but we found the last year in 5 projects ways to offer a voice to groups of people who get marginalized in our countries.
Yes.
And that last year was a wonderful way of finding those ways, and we are really excited. For instance, I together with a friend colleague who is working with girls, teenagers who arrived in or got locked up in sexual exploitation context. We interviewed 10 of those girls. We got incredibly brave stories, also very vulnerable stories, but we try to deconstruct the last year all those ideas of that it are naive girls, for instance.
Yeah, that they've been trapped.
Trapped, and that they are victims, and then what happens here in Belgium is, we have to lock them up to make them safe for themselves.
They can't be trusted with their own bodies. With
and they have to know what are real, normal relationships.
Yeah.
So we did complete inverse, and we asked them all their ideas about love, all their experiences, and what their responses were to those difficult situations. And we got really imaginable stories.
Right.
But then we started to think, how do we want to bring those stories here? Because they stay very vulnerable, and we don't want them to do what has been done to them, that they will start to become naked here on stage.
Yes.
So we asked one girl if we could write a theatre play of her life story that she told us and about her responses, and add all the other responses of the other girls.
Wow.
So we created a theatre play, and 3 weeks ago, for the first time, the theatre play was read to the girl. It was a shivering moment.
Yeah.
Because it was for the first time that she, from a different position, a new position, could start to reflect on her own story and her own life. And that she started to see, I have responded.
Yes.
What makes a huge difference. And a week later, we did that again, but now she asked her sister in that process.
Right.
So we did Outside the Witnesses, her sister did Outside the Witnesses. It was amazing. Yesterday evening, the theatre play has been played to all her social workers she had, to her psychologists she had, to her therapists she had. And they did also amazing, shivering Outside the Witnesses.
So when's that tomorrow?
And tomorrow evening the theatre play will be performed here, and we are going to ask the audience to do Outside the Witness and write some letters to the girl.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we were getting so engaged and enthusiastic in the whole project that we started to think now, with that theatre play, that story of that girl and the other girls, because it creates complete new identity stories, and it's really a migration of identity for those girls if we can have that kind of conversations, that we have to go with that theatre play to institutions where those girls are a bit locked up.
Yes, for their own protection.
Yeah, for their own, so that we can, through the theatre play, can have maybe new conversations with all those girls.
Wow. And the people around them that are kind of colluding with the narrative about them.
Yeah, that would be very interesting, we think. And if we dream further on, and we keep on dreaming, that's how we are. But it would be also maybe very interesting, and we hope we can realize that in time, that we go with a theatre play to the youth prisons where those boys, those lover boys, and those guys who try to get those girls into prostitution, that we can offer that theatre play over there and have conversations with the boys.
Powerful.
That would be for us. So the conference will not be finished, I think. But that's also one of the examples of what we meant with how can we cross borders.
Yes.
And how can we create teams of solidarity. I like very much the idea of Vicky Reynolds, who says, how can we be imperfect solidaire with each other.
Yes.
And I think that's a beautiful example of how maybe we can do it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Sabine. That's been wonderful. Just an example of what the conference is doing right now. And so hopefully we'll tune in tomorrow at some stage as well.
Okay.
Say goodbye to the Social Work Wise community.
Goodbye, and hope to see you next time.
I'll encourage them.
Yeah. Okay for you.
Yes, thank you, Sabine. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Mila. I'm making visual notes while we're on the conference. They're over there. And I'm also writing down some stories that people are telling me about their practice or just things that they want to share me actually.
Okay, so you're in the keynotes, and then there's a group of people, the voices from the margins. That was the one that caught my attention. So what was it about what they were saying that caught your attention?
The things that caught my attention were the stories about pain, but also getting through it by meeting new people that are going through the same thing, and the strength that they find in that. So that was very beautiful to see, and also what I thought was very sad to see, of course, is that they all go to the same story about having a child that they really love and is a very innocent baby and a very innocent child, and having to grow up a completely different way and not recognizing their own child anymore.
These are the stories of parents with a child with an addiction, and some of them had actually died. The addiction had taken their lives, and so it was incredibly moving. So, Mila, how did you become involved in the conference? How were you approached, and what was?
I made a couple of illustrations already for Interactie Academie, who is partly organizing. People from the Interactie Academie in Antwerp are organizing this conference, like Sabine. And I also made some illustrations for the book of Emma Reimers, and that's how Sabine contacted me because she knew what I was doing, and she knew that I was interested in journaling and getting a story across with drawing and writing.
Yeah, as Sabine was saying yesterday, that a part of the conference organisation ethos was around incorporating art, music, other than therapy. That was kind of about crossing that particular border.
Yeah.
So you've been included with that hope and intention.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you. Is there anything else you want to say to people in Australia? Been to Australia?
No, I've never been to Australia. I hope you have a nice winter.
I know they're all freezing right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mila. Okay, I might just see if I can show you some of Mila's artwork, which is really stunning. Excuse me. So that's the artwork that we were just discussing. And one of the things that I was particularly impressed by was that the group at the end sang a Pete Seeger song, If I Had a Hammer. And that got me bawling. That was it. I was sitting on my tears. As soon as that song started, I was a goner. Look at that. Very generously, the conference is in English, when the majority of people attending are not English speakers. So that's Jim Duval, who was our first speaker this morning. About story form. That's Bill Madsen, who we've been looking at before, and mattering. This is fantastic. I did post that bit from Bill about mattering, was what we all went away with. Hi everyone, we're now getting towards the skinny end of the program here at the conference, but I did want to take the opportunity to talk to Pollan, who I have posted earlier about the island of hungry ghosts that was so profoundly moving and devastating for me as an Australian to witness and watch last night. And I did mention that Pollan had introduced the film to us, and of course one of her stories is part of the film. Although I guess my question was, Pollan, what do you see as the central story or narratives of that film? Because there's multiple narratives, but what would you most like people to take away from it as the central theme?
Okay. Hi everyone. It's actually a really great question because Gabrielle, the filmmaker, and myself, our shared intention was that there wouldn't be one dominant film story, that it was multiple stories that kind of find themselves entwined. But if you want to say, is there a main protagonist? As funding bodies hated it when we said this, the island was the main protagonist, and it was the main witness to these colliding stories.
And when we're saying the island, it's Christmas Island, one of the main places of detention, those places where we keep those other people we don't want in our in our country out there. One of those islands that, So one of the scenes in the film that I was absolutely riveted and devastated by was you macheting your way through the jungle to actually have that view of the. It's always inferred, like in the film, the presence of the detention centre is kind of implied until a pivotal point in the film where it's revealed in its full. The fullness of what it actually is physically. So how did that scene come about? What was the what was the hope around that scene?
Yeah, so in terms of a documentary, we'd say it's like a hybrid form. It was observational, but it was also some scenes that we kind of did more theatrically, based on the real experience. So when Gabrielle came to visit me on the island, we had been spending time together as friends, and near the end of her first visit, I told her I wanted to show her something. And it was during the season where the jungle is really overgrown. It seems so normal to me, but you just have to grab a machete to cut through the jungle. But I guess for Gabrielle, it was quite a striking moment for her, and it's something that stayed with her through the making of the film. And we cut our way through, which it takes a long time and it's pretty tough work. And but at the very end, when you get to the top, it is like literally one of the only places on the island where you can see the detention centre. And very early on, media used to get up there to take photos, but since then they've let the path grow over, and people are very much they're kind of deterred from going up there.
What do you think the symbols of the ghost? It's the ghost image is pretty dominant, and I thought at first the crabs were ghost crabs. I thought no, they're red crabs. What do you think the ghost motif's about? That's sort of fairly central too.
So I can't speak for Gabrielle, the filmmaker, but I know that she did a lot of research and conversation with the 70% Chinese Malay population on Christmas Island. But for me, Hungry Ghost is something I grew up with. My family are from Penang in Malaysia, and I remember from a very young age being kind of brought up alongside ghosts. I'm told, certain things in the evening, not to brush again or bring your washing in, so that no ghosts could touch the clothing and come into the house, and to make offerings so that they would be appeased and wouldn't kind of try to make trouble in the house. So I guess I grew up with it. It's a pretty kind of it was part of my life story, but I think what's really interesting is that the ghosts really, they speak to the historical context of Christmas Island. They speak to the legacy of the first people that were brought across as indentured slaves. And they also speak very clearly about this liminal space between earth and heaven, or this place between life and death. And for people seeking asylum, they are held in a liminal space. They're neither citizen nor are they yet refugee. They're still held using this language of asylum seeker.
Yeah. So for you, Po, just to sort of wrap it up, what are your hopes for, where this film will go? What sort of change, what sort of energy would you like to come out of it? I believe it was released last year. So, it's have you seen there's some momentum? Is it sort of going in the direction you'd hope for?
Yeah, I think one of the first intentions for the film was not to replicate mainstream media images and stories, what we are exposed to day in, day out in the Australian context. but to offer stories and metaphors and images in a way that allows people to come to their own ethical position. And people ask, oh, what do we do next? And I guess the only way I can respond is, as you watch, how are you moved? And what are you moved to want to do? And that's all I would leave you with, is that the film is not message driven. It's literally see it, experience it, and then see what you want to do and can do.
Well, I'll leave you there. There's some social work wisdom, if there ever was, and someone who walks the talk. It's been great to talk with you, Po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Hi everyone. For you social work wisers, here I am in the middle of Antwerp. It seems to be the beating heart of the old town. It's about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and people are just starting to rise and shine in Europe. No one goes to bed until midnight because the sun's up until 10. So you can just see that the city's waking, and I've had the kind of privilege of being able to have a look around at this amazing Flemish architecture and the awesome churches. Look at that. Check that out. Yeah. So what an amazing trip this has been, as well as all of my other journeying and sightseeing and everything, but being at the conference for these last 3-4 days has been very enriching. I felt like I've been with my tribe, fully with my tribe, like-minded people with similar values and hopes for their work and ways of wanting to connect. It's just felt like a retreat, a holiday, as my English friends, Joe, Emma and Susie, we were talking about it being like a retreat for the mind, a refreshment as well, to get you committed to, reconnected to the things that you value in your work and in people. Some of the highlights for me, I think, were Glenda Fredman's keynote and her workshop where she was talking about identity, and I guess about the fact that we are only people through other people, and also a reminder that we're always in a state of belonging, becoming, and that comes through belonging and through our connections with other people. Bill Marsden's stuff that I've posted about mattering was a really nice refresher, particularly for people working in institutions and working with people where people are treated very much as if they don't matter, and what he calls that de-mattering. It was a reminder about some of the daily acts that we can engage in to make a difference to that, and that's an important small daily step we can take, is to make people matter, including ourselves, because often organisations make people not matter, and that was really good as well. I really enjoyed the singing workshop, the collective songwriting. I don't think we're ever going to submit anything to Eurovision, but it was a hell of a lot of fun, just finding a communal rhythm and a beat, and then laying down some words that were about the conference themes and also about people's migration journeys, which was fantastic. And the island of Hungry Ghosts was another highlight for me, as I've already talked about, and with Po. That as an Australian, it was particularly poignant and reminding, and I guess I'm going to try and take Po's advice and make sure that I keep doing what I can, again in small ways. I can't, got to keep remembering I can't change the world, but the world does change me, and certainly has changed me being back in Europe and reconnecting with my own European roots. They're not in the lowlands, they're actually more like Ireland and Wales and Germany. Not so much here, but Europe still feels a little bit like home to me. So anyway, signing off. Thanks for joining me. If you've been in and had a look at videos and stuff like that, really encourage you to make a similar journey if you can. Get to one of these conferences. The European Conference Committee is really committed, very mindful of people's needs, very caring. So yeah, we say au revoir from Belgium, and I'll see you back at home. Bye.